What is up everyone, Panda here, and today we're going to be going over the King guide. This is something I've been working on for ages, and it's the type of guide that you can keep coming back to over and over and over again to learn new things. It's supposed to be a lengthy guide, it's supposed to be a big guide, all of that awesome stuff. Just came back for my holiday. The King guide was maybe released during that, but there was a couple of things that happened, aka the patch notes, so there's a bunch of new things that I need to mention in this video, so that will be something that I'm going to add on here. They'll just let you know, Panda from the future, we're back from holiday. Probably going to play more King and Ranked, maybe, especially some of the buffs. We won't go after the wave dash. I want to cover that in its own video because there's so much to break down with that alone, whereas these tools can be broken down in about 2 to 3 minutes and really be understood. But if you see me like this, that means I am updating you on patch notes. Peace. But I think we should get started with the main point of this guide, and that's telling you why you want to play King. First things first, we gotta mention King is a grappler, and he is made to purely do damage and mix up the opponent with throws. Do you like WWE? Then King is probably the character for you, having a lot of solid grabs and a lot of ways to cause mental anguish and to mix up the opponent, to scare them into falling for your launchers. Overall, a great character for pure mental stack and threatening some good 50-50s, either mid or throw. He's a nasty character, it's got it all. His damage is also pretty high for a Tekken character, having some of the easiest damage to have access to right away, either with his heat smash, with the big finishing power bomb, or having something as the instant shining wizard to maximize the peak amount of damage that you can get. Overall, high damage character that'll be breaking skulls. The neutral mindset. When playing King in the neutral position, you want to aim for ways to get in or look for ways to whiff punish to force your get-ins. What this refers to is using some of your best whiff punishers to deal some damage to the opponent and pull yourself in, because every one of King's whiff punishers pulls them in. Back 1-2 does it, back 2-1 does it. All of these key tools will pull you in for whiff punishing, and that's one of the key things that you want to do with King. The other thing that you want to look for, if you're not going for whiff punishes, is aiming to push the offense. King has great ways to push offense with his long reaching attacks and some of the scarier lows in the game, especially 4-4 neutral too, but we'll be getting into that much later. There's a lot of neutral freedom, but don't be overwhelmed. I recommend just try pick up one thing first, maybe going for whip punishes first or going for approaches first. It's up to you. I recommend getting used to approaches first and learning how to whip punish later. Try and mix up both of them, but obviously try and learn one thing at a time. That's the whole point of this guide. Let's get right into his tools and some of his key whip punishers and block punishes. That way you know what to use to kind of space out the opponent and take advantage of a turn that is clearly yours. When it comes to pokes, King has access to good far-reaching pokes that are safe on block. You can play safe with pokes until you get a knockdown or a hit for massive plus frames. Your standard pokes are varied, so let's go through them. 1-2 is a good, fast, high string poke that is +1 and jail, so the second one is forced on block. +8 on hit, which is amazing for the throw game, which we will get into much later. But overall, a really good tool for threatening your presence very quickly, but do be careful as the second it is whiff punishable. I recommend using this in mid space, kind of like a tool to let your opponent know that you're there, you exist, without committing too much. Your next poke is forward 3. This is an amazing mid whiff punisher, and the main reason for it is that if your execution is clean and you press 1+2 on the frame that hits, you'll get a DDT. This leads to a really great ulti, and as you can tell, if you make the opponent whiff and you whiff punish him with this tool, forward 3, you're going to get really good setups and you can threaten the opponent into some nasty mid throw mix-ups. So aim to throw this out and aim to catch them if they try to whiff some of their bigger moves. For example, Kazuya whiffing a Demon Palm is a forward 3 punish that we want to look out for. Back 1-2 is one of the go-to tools, and that's because it is an amazing counter hit launcher, which is hit confirmable. Of course, as a whip punish, it's really good, leaving you +5 and pulls King in for his throw game. Again, we'll be getting into that much later. So you want to aim to use this poke as a whip punisher. Again, if forward 3 isn't your style, you're not good at the execution side, that's fair enough, we've all got that problem. Back 1-2 is your easy go-to for this. 12 frame, very quick, you pop them, +5, good damage. Threaten a mid or threaten a throw, threaten some plus frames is up to you. Really good situation to get your opponent scared, but do be careful as it is punishable on block. Aim to use this when the opponent whiffs and take full control. Another really good neutral poke and overall very poke is down forward 2 into 1. This is a nice string. It comes out 13 frames, 13 frame mid, has some decent tracking to the left side, and is actually a counter hit launcher. So you want to aim at counter hit confirm this if you ever noticed a little spark going through. And because it's very hit confirmed, doesn't mean you can get a combo consistently, deal some solid damage. You want to aim to use this when your opponent's going for some side steps to your left side, or you want to aim to use this after your jabs, kind of like either offensive tool or aiming to use it as something to catch your opponent out in neutral. And because it is a mid, if they try to do a high evasion tool where back 1-2 whiff on recovery, down forward 2 will catch you covered. And keep in mind, it's not hit confirmable a normal hit, so in situations where down forward 2 will just land, I recommend trying to set up a mid throw game simply because it's really plus on hit. So take advantage of that. Either use it as a whiff recovery on someone that's low down, or use it as a pressure tool after one, scare the opponent into doing something foolish that you're looking out for. 4-4 is a good tracking tool and it's a very good neutral tool because it has solid reach. Because of the reach that 4-4 has, if the opponent tries to space you out and play a low game, you can hop over the low and catch them. The other thing is, if they go to sidestep, 4-4 is also a tracking mid, comes out very quick, and if the opponents try to sidestep next to a wall, he's gonna regret doing that as you immediately have a wall splat. And as we know, King has one of the cooler throws next to the wall. So hit him with a forward 4 and knock him up against it, get your grab, get your damage. Keep in mind, it is safe on block, but it does have some slight slow recovery to it. So try and threaten this tool when the opponent is aiming to escape you rather than challenge you. This is probably for the best when in neutral. Look for your opportunities to catch your opponent stepping or ducking, or even try to threaten a low. That's the main purpose of the tool. Try and threaten it maybe after a 1, or try backing yourself up, looking for an opportunity to play around some of their tools. Really pay attention to your opponent you're fighting. Maybe you're fighting a Devil Jin who's been doing down back 2, or fighting a Jin that's been doing down 2 a lot. And you want to call him out for that, you hit him with forward 4, pop him up against the wall, get solid damage. That is the main purpose of this tool. And also when the opponent's sidestepping around trying to get a hold of neutral, teach him a lesson with it. Down forward 1-2 not only is a good offensive string, but it's also a very good neutral string. Down forward 1 reaches quite a good bit, and because it's an elbow, cannot be parried by some of the characters in the game, so take advantage of that. Down forward 1, also very good on hit, allowing you to go for a throw game, but because the second hit is delayable, despite it being -1 on block, you can scare your opponent and you can go for a cheeky throw because of it. But yeah, really good strength for threatening distance, and because it's a mid, very good for catching people recovering down low. For example, any Eddie string after relax down forward 1 is a really good tool for it. Good damage, really good tool, and the second hit is confirmable if you're quick enough, and because of that, you can set up your throw game. Great neutral tool, keep in mind to use it when your opponent's recovering down low, or they've just whiffed a move like Kazuya Demon Palm. Look out for that, take advantage of that, and take your damage. The final neutral poke, which I would refer to as very underrated, is down forward 3. It's very fast at 14 frames, has really good reach, better reach than forward 3 surprisingly, but the thing that makes it bad is -9 on block. However, +4 on hit and tracks to your left side makes that a very good poke because people are going to often sidestep to their left. So take advantage of that with this poke. Down forward 3, clip them, it does solid damage, and you can set a throw up if you're quick enough. The other thing that's really good about down forward 3, because it's only -9, you're not going to get punished, but you can also use it as a spacing trap. Down forward 3 into back up will make the opponent whiff their jab and take full advantage of that. So use this tool as a round ender, as it has a very good hitbox and it's just quick out on the field. Try and use that to lock down the opponent for round win opportunities, or try threaten it after certain tools to call out a cheeky sidestep. Overall, underrated tool, totally worth using. Now that we're done talking about your whiff punishes in neutral, let's go over your get-in tools with neutral, and that is your approaches. Now, your approaches with King are good, and they also vary among how you'll use them. For example, let's start with the first one being forward 2-1. 4-2-1 isn't just a good whiff punisher like for the previous tools because of its reach, but it's also a very good block punish. If the opponent is minus 15, you can use this as an immediate heat engager. And this is great in Tekken. The main goal is to get into your heat engage to terrify the hell out of your opponent into an instant 50-50 on punish. These tools are amazing in Tekken 8, by far some of the strongest tools in Tekken 8, and you want to take full advantage of your heat engagers. As a Gatten tool, if you have heat, you can use your heat dash to get some plus frames. So you want to use this tool at some long ranges to scare the opponent when you have heat, but keep in mind that the second hit is duckable. So test your opponent, threaten the 2, forward 2, and do not commit to the 1. See what they do. If they duck, do not threaten it ever again. Commit to using it as a whiff punisher. However, if the opponent doesn't duck, use forward 2-1 as a great wall travel tool, and to get your solid damage, and to get your chip damage, and to threaten your high-low. Very strong tool overall. The other thing is, with heat, as a whiff punisher, as previously mentioned with some of the other tools as your whiff punisher, this being your heat engager whiff punisher, means that you can instantly get into heat. And with the heat dash, you can get a combo. So 4-2-1, an amazing tool. Be sure to threaten it as much as you can in certain circumstances, and watch out for your opponent whiffing those big normals. Now, to get into another approach tool that is an amazing neutral tool, is 4-4-1. This is King's best tracking mid, as it is only minus 5 on block, and it gives you an immeasurable plus 15 on hit. Plus 15 means the opponent cannot duck your next throw attempt, meaning that they have to take a true throw. This is awesome because King's whole game plan is that he wants the opponent to take as many throws as possible. So this is great. I recommend going for Giant Swing or Muscle Buster to go for your mix after landing 4-4-1, but we'll get into that much later when we go over your throw game. However, the main thing that makes this really good is that it's a safe mid tracking tool with the amazing property of the counter hit. The counter hit knocks the opponent down for a guaranteed grounded throw or an elbow drop into alley kick. Take full advantage of this tool, as it will be one of your best tracking tools besides threatening throw. And when throws do eventually get nerfed in terms of tracking, because I can't see it staying the way it is, 4-4-1 will be your next go-to tracking tool when you're playing neutral with King. Up next is 4-4 neutral 1+2, the layoff. Even though this move comes out in 9 frames, that's not technically true, because there's a neutral state after dashing, and to commit to a dash, that takes star up, and the neutral takes star up. So this move roughly comes out about to 11 to 12 frames, if you're perfect. Besides that, it's a really good move. It does no damage on hit, and is neutral on block. Now you're probably wondering, what makes it so good then, if it does no damage? And that is because the on hit and counter hit properties. On hit, it's +7, giving you a throw mix-up situation and full offensive control. This is really good, as you can set up some good throws and some good mid mixes that you can go into, for example the chest immediately afterwards. We'll be getting into that tool later. However, I've been withholding some information with you. The main thing that makes this tool amazing is the counter hit properties. It is more likely that you'll get a counter hit with this being an 11 frame mid as the opponent tries to challenge you, and its counter hit leaves you +18. +18 is a very good number to have, as this means you can get a guaranteed 4-2-1 to go into heat, or you go for a back 3 for that sweet chin music into the guillotine leg drop, dealing mass amounts of damage. And if the wall is right behind you, you can go for a hop kick for a wall splat. Overall, amazing tool. And this is quite insane for a 0 on block mid. Practice using this poke, as this will be a key poke in King's game plan to either set up offense or to rush in, as it's such a fast poke. You may as well threaten this instead of jab. But that's only if you get good with it. I recommend practicing it, getting it down, and try to utilize it in times where the opponent wants to start their pressure, as it'll be the best counter hit reward that you can get with King, while staying extremely safe. 4-4-2 was a tool that got majorly buffed compared to when it released. Now, instead of being +0, giving you a situation when the opponent's in forced crouch, you're now getting all that. +7. +7 is ridiculous. For a guaranteed chest bump. Chest bump is now guaranteed if the opponent challenges your +10, and you could go for a jab or confirm giant swing. Opponent can't duck it, right? That's the rule, right? They're not allowed to duck it, they have to guess, right? So very powerful to have access to. The other thing that is really amazing that King got from this is that all of a sudden, because now he has a long mid tool to mix up people trying to duck your 4-4 neutral too. This is what 4-4-2 was made to do, except the reward on block wasn't really worth it as a 31 frame mid. However, because it is more worth it on block, even if you make that incorrect read, you now have a guaranteed turn where the opponent has to kind of take it. And if they don't take it, you can go for a hot meat to interrupt them, back 3 to interrupt them, down forward 2 to interrupt them. There's a lot of easy tools that you can go to, but overall this is still a really solid go-to neutral tool. Hell, even maybe as a delayed offense tool now. This is probably really worth using, and I recommend trying to throw it in there alongside your 4-4 neutral 2s. Try use it at the same time in that your 4-4 neutral 2s would come out, which is this tool coming up. The next tool that got heavily buffed from Tekken 7 to 8 is 4-4 neutral 2. 4-4 neutral 2 in Tekken 7 was a minus 18 low, however that got changed into this game as it is a minus 13 low. This did a lot for King because now he has a non-launch punishable low that is reliable to go to. One of the weaknesses of King's in previous games is that we've not had an amazing low to utilize. However, in this game, now we have a low. This means our game plan has a lot of layers that we can go into besides a mid throw. We now have a low to scare the opponent into playing into our hands. And the low, being minus 13, means that they can't do a launch punish, they can't do mass amounts of damage, except when you're fighting Kazuya, keep that in mind. By ignoring him, let's continue on with the greater properties of this low, is that it's +7 on hit and avoids jabs because he ducks down, so he has high crushing attached to it as well. The only problem that is linear, so watch out for people trying to sidestep, this is where 4-4-1 will come into play. However, on counter hit, you can do chunky damage. Because it's +7, the other great thing is that you can go for throw mix up, or you can set up the chest as it will trade with jab, giving you another opportunity to keep going for offense. Yeah, the other thing that's amazing about this low is that on counter hit, it deletes a massive chunk of the opponent's health. We're talking about a solid 30% chunk. So keep in mind to utilize this low. It's by far one of the best lows that King's got, and it's probably one of the top 10 lows of Tekken 8. Be sure to utilize it, scare the opponent. It's one of the nastiest tools in King's arsenal, and let's try to use it as much as we can to set up that throw game. The next tool to use is forward 2-3. This is a heat engager with a lot of reach. We're talking about reach from almost 4 distance. A very quick mid at 16 frames, but also the SARB changes depending on when it's blocked, as it's active for a good solid amount of frames. Because of this, it's only -9, but in worst best case scenario, it could be -5. But that's only with appropriate spacing. You want to use this as a quick poke to catch your opponent off guard and to get into heat. The other thing in heat is that if the opponent blocks it, you can go into a heat dash confirming your turn, or to get a combo if it is hit. So you want to try and threaten this tool when you have heat from a distance to immediately get a turn. An amazing tool overall, does some solid chip, best to scare the opponent with it when you've got the correct distancing, but be careful as it is linear. So be sure to not use this when your opponent's been threatening a lot of steps, but be sure to use it when your opponent's been threatening a lot of backdashes into jab. Smart tool to use. For another amazing get-in tool, we have the 4-4 forward 3. The running 3 is your knee. This tool is amazing. The main reason why is that it has solid reach and is +3 on block with some chip damage. Overall, one of your go-to mids because it's very quick, sets up some immediate offense, and it being +3 means that you can do down forward 2 and trade with a jab and still have the offensive pressure that you were given with the run-up. You can also go immediately into throw if people are going to challenge with armor. You can also take advantage of that with a throw. So overall, a really good tool to threaten, but the thing is, it is not a free throw setup. It being +3 does not mean you get a guaranteed throw, and it is a little linear. So be sure to use it sparingly, but not too much, as it is a great tool with clear flaws. The last get-in tool, and one of the best spacing tools if you pick it correctly, and that is King's up 1+2. From all the people that come from the anime genre, this move might remind you of another move, but I can guarantee you it is 10 times better than Mega Fist. Up 1+2 is a really slow mid, however it has a lot of great properties, it being a low crush for example, and having some solid reach makes it worth using at points in the match. However, don't be too predictable with it, as it is slow and will fall to armor if you're not clever with it. But Enough of the negatives, let's get into the positives, and that is your +2 on block, giving you a guaranteed turn. Be sure to take advantage of it as the opponent's forced into crouching, meaning that down forward 2 will trade with some of the opponent's attacks unless they pick a 10 framer. So take advantage of the plus frames that you're given, but let's get into the next advantage, which is it's a launcher on hit. It's one of King's best launcher in terms of damage. You're talking about kicking up 50%, utilize heat and rage. So far, an amazing mid to use, and to really threaten into your opponent. Take the correct spacing. I recommend using this with the correct spacing, backing up, looking for your opportunity. And when the opponent whiffs a jab, whiffs a 2, or whiffs a big low, up 1+2, take advantage of it, get your launcher, or on block, take your offensive pressure. But yeah, we've been talking a lot about your tools to use when you're in neutral, try and whiff punish, when you're trying to get in. But let's get into one of the key things that you should learn in Tekken, and that is block punishes. King has some really good block punishes for the frames that he's given. For example, 2-1 as your 10 frame punish is something that we should aim to use if we don't know how punishable something is. It is a high mid, meaning if the opponent goes to duck the jab, if you're -9, the second jab will interrupt them. So that's really good in those types of circumstances. Unless they pick a well rising 4, you'll have full advantage with that 2 follow-up. In the terms that the opponent is -10 or above, it leads to some solid damage and leaves you +8, which is a large margin to take your turn with. You can set up a free chest bump, or you can go for a throw mix. Overall, great way to scare the opponent into taking your turn after punishing them. So be sure to use this when your opponent's -10 or above. If you don't know how minus something is, 2-1 is your good bet. Back 1-2 is your 12 frame punisher, meaning this is the tool to use if you're well aware if something is -12 or above. It's +5, pulls you in again, like mentioned before, as a great counter hit, but we're not going to care about the counter hit properties, this is solely on punish. But as it pulls you in for the +5 on hit, it does lead to your throw game. So overall, try use this if the opponent whiffs something, or try use it if the opponent is -12, with some pushback, as it has some reach with that back 1-2. Overall, amazing 12 frame punish. Back 2-1 is your 14 frame punisher that is used to wall splat. When blocking a very punishable move where the wall is nearby, this move is the play to get more damage from these situations. Take advantage of those -14 situations when you have that knowledge. Overall, amazing punisher, and the fact that it's high means it is safe on block, but do be careful as the second hit is duckable if you've chosen wrong with this tool. As your last key consistent punisher, we have the hop kick. It is your standard hop kick, it launches at 15 frames. You want to use this when the opponent's -15 or above, for example after blocking a low stagger. If you see a low like this, hop kick is your easy punish and you'll get some solid damage, but we'll go over the combo later if you want to get your maximized damage or just have a simple B&B. But next are your crouch punishes. These are when you block a move that is low. As you know, in Tekken, when you're crouching, you don't have access to your standing moves. You gain access to your well standing, aka well rising, or your crouching moves. And King's crouching moves are also really good punishers. This one to start with is well rising 4. This is a consistent and 11 frame punish that is +5 on hit, and has good reach, so you're never wrong if you want to use this tool. It being safe on block is also a great thing if you're wrong, but the key thing about this is that it can't set up your throw game because it's +5. Take full advantage of that well rising. The next well rising punisher is 2-2, and this is the chop mid tracking tool. The tracking isn't really anything we care about, and the second hit isn't hit confirmable unless counter hit. However, if the opponent makes you block a -14 low, this is your punish, as it is extremely plus. It is +12 on hit, setting you up for a free throw game where the opponent cannot duck. So I recommend using this after a -14, chop into an immediate throw. Overall, great tool to use when your opponent is threatening pretty staggerable lows. The other key thing about this mid is that it's also a wall splat near the wall. So if the opponent goes for a down back 3 with Fang Wave, for example, you pop them with 2-2, they're up against the wall and you can get a combo for some solid damage. Keep this tool in mind when punishing lows. But yeah, the last thing that you'll need to know when punishing a low that is -15 and above is King's key launcher that does mass amounts of damage, and that is full crouch down forward 2. The damage is really amped for this move. It does a lot of damage with the combo we'll be showing later, and when the opponent is -15 or above, you're talking about getting a lot of set play, and there's ways to even set up heat with this tool as well. So overall, an amazing mid tool if you want to get mass amounts of damage on a -15 or above low, or if you even duck at high. Keep that in mind as well. And we've talked about neutral uses plenty now. We're going to be going into your offensive uses for King, and we're going to get into the offensive mindset for playing King. Now, when you play as King, you want to aim to condition your opponent with good mids and highs to set up your plus frames. That way you can stop the opponent from either ducking or interrupt them for challenging you. That way they have to respect your future plays. And when you've got them respecting your plays, that means you've got them conditioned. This is a great term in the FGC to let you know that you're telling your opponent how the game's going to be played, and they've accepted the terms, they're taking the conditioning, and that allows you to set up your command grabs. This is the main intent with King. You want to set up your mids to condition the opponent so you can set up your throws. You can start with throws early, but that won't really work in the higher levels of play if you continue with King. Main thing you want to set up is your plus frames, that way you can go immediately into the mid throw mix. Of course, King has great mixes that are safe, for example, down back to chop, or the giant swing if the opponent doesn't duck, but we'll be getting into all those tools way later in this next section called offense. One thing I should mention when we get into offense is with the previous thing that was mentioned, for example the offensive mindset, there's a bunch of tools that you can use for this previously mentioned when it comes to whip punishers and neutral, and that is these tools listed as above: down forward 1, down forward 2, forward forward 1, forward forward 2, forward 3, forward forward neutral 1 plus 2, forward forward neutral 2, and 1 2, 1 into 2. These tools are also good for up close pressure as it is from far away pressure. So keep that in mind when you want to go for offense, that you can use these tools previously mentioned. This is the great thing about Kings, all of his tools are a Swiss Army knife. They have multi-purpose uses, and that is one of the awesome things about them. But yes, let's get into your key offensive tools now. They're made only for offense, and we're going to start off with forward 1 plus 4. Forward 1 plus 4 is a 17 frame mid that is plus 3 on block. This is really good as it means it can't be ducked, and it's a great way to start offense. I recommend using it after the low 4-4 neutral 2 as it sets up plus 7, meaning that if the opponent goes for a jab, the chest check will be able to trade with them, and you'll be able to take full advantage of that trade as you'll be more plus, allowing you to set up another chest check if you're willing to do so. The other thing that's really good about the forward 1 plus 4 is that on hit it is plus 7, meaning that you can continue to do it again. So this is a great reset tool if you believe the opponent is going to take your pressure. That way you can scare them into pressing, and one of the things that's really good about this tool, it being plus 3, if the opponent goes to press, Giant Swing will interrupt them, Tawana Twister will interrupt them, and the Muscle Buster will interrupt them. So this is a great thing about this tool. You can set up the opponent to make them want to challenge, and then deny them with the command grab. So overall an amazing tool, and I would aim to threaten it after 4-4 neutral 2. That is why this tool is an amazing mid for reset pressure. Keep in mind, like I mentioned with 4-1 plus 4, you want to use these tools to set up your throw. That is the key thing about King, setting up the throw. The throw comes first, the throw comes after. That's how you want to set up these tools. For example, when mentioning 4-4 neutral 2, you could go into that or immediately to throw, or you go for the chest check into throw. That way the opponent thinks about ducking. They go like, oh, I'm not allowed to duck after 4-4 neutral 2. And then the next time where they don't go to duck, Giant Swing will interrupt them yet again. So keep that in mind when threatening these tools. 4-4 neutral 2 into throw, 4-4 neutral 2 into chest into throw is the way to go. Keep that in mind. Mix up these tools, mix up your timings, or hell, just go for the throw first. It's just Shining Wizard. Sometimes that is the play sometimes. But yeah, next we're going to be going into a string that is good for pressure if the opponent is not ready, and that is back 2 into 1 plus 2. It is a solid high string that has got some solid mix-ups to it, for example back 2 into 4. Back 2 into 4 is a really good mid follow-up that will get solid damage and amazing Oki. But the high follow-up is really good because if the opponent is conditioned by the mid, it's plus 2. Setting up our throw game yet again. And if the opponent goes to challenge, a hop kick will deny them in their place as it will beat both dick jab and neutral jab. And the other thing that's great about this headbutt, if the opponent goes to challenge on the headbutt follow-up, it's actually a launcher leading to a combo. So keep that in mind when using this tool. Either use it for the launch or use it for the pressure. Either or, good way to go with this offensive tool. keep using it, threaten it occasionally, and the opponent will be scared of you. To continue with your offensive attacks, again, throws will be coming after this, after we talk a bit more about the attacks. Down 3 is your good close range plus on hit low. Down 3 is a 17 frame low, which is really good because it means it's in the realms of barely reactable. So it's a very unreactable low. It's a very good low for mixing up your throw game and mixing up your mid-low game, because all of a sudden the opponent gets hit by a low and they get thrown off because they were expecting a mid or a throw. So that's a really good mental stack option to throw in. But the other thing that's really good about it, even if the opponent does block it, it's minus 12. These types of lows tend to be minus 13, and Kazuya would be able to launch punish you, a lot of characters would be able to knockdown punish you, but in this case they cannot. They can only get a standing punish and get decent damage. You're back to neutral essentially. So that's a really good thing about this low. Very low committal, but you have to make sure you get that up close distance, because that is where it stands out. I recommend threatening this after 4, 1+4, or after your jab, or after punishing with 2-1. Down 3 is a really good mental stack option to catch them off. You can do down 3 into down 3, down 3 into giant swing, down 3 into 4-4 neutral 2. The list goes on. You can really get creative with when using this tool. Your next offensive tool that comes after your wave dash, your crouch dash, the beast dash as it's called, is your crouch dash 1+2. This is a safe mid counter hit launcher. You want to throw this out if your opponent's breaking up or if they're challenging in incorrect places, for example when you're really plus like 2-1. And because it is safe, it also leads to forced pressure, so it's really good if you want to mix it up after Oki. I recommend using this tool sparingly, but as an OTG if the opponent wants to get up after knocking them down. Overall, very good offensive tool. I wouldn't use this in neutral, but after the opponent is knocked down or after holding plus frames, this is the tool to use to scare them. And of course, it being a counter hit launcher, it leads to some of your best damage as King. Take full advantage of that as well as we go into the combos later. That is all the offensive strikes that are important to King. The list that was mentioned and the ones that we went over, meaning we need to talk about the offensive throws. And this is where King gets fun. I was saving the best for last. Before we talk about throws, I need to explain how they work in Tekken. That way you understand what you're doing to your opponent and what your opponent's mindset is when you're throwing them, because this is very important to keep in mind if you want to have solid offense between you and your opponent. As you may know, in Tekken, to break a throw, you pick the arm that is going to grab you to break out. For example, if you go to grab with the left arm, tech with the left, grab with the right arm, tech with the right. And now with both arms, you tech with both arms with 1+2. Keep this in mind, right, as we continue into King's mix that we'll be getting into. King has an exception to this rule, and this is what we're going to go over. In this example, King is doing two different throws that need to be broken by picking the right button. If you notice though, the animations are the exact same compared to as previously shown. The 1 for 2, the 2 for 2, the 2 for the both for 1+2. However, both these animations are the exact same here, as Giant Swing and the Muscle Buster looks the same. This is great for King because all of a sudden your throws aren't reactable. It's a 50-50 guessing game. So in this situation here, use your little pop quiz. Is this the Giant Swing or is this the Muscle Buster? How would you tech it, 1 or 1+2? For all the people that picked 1, you're incorrect. This was actually Muscle Buster. And that is what makes King so good in this game when it comes to the throw game, is that you can be deceiving with your 1 and your 1+2 throws. By far one of the best things about his design is scaring people between your Giant Swing and your Muscle Buster. And if you're good enough, maybe even your Rock Bottom, if you're feeling that crazy enough. Tools like Giant Swing makes all of your 1+2 breaks immediately terrifying, as the opponent was looking for a way to deal with it, all of a sudden has to think about how to get out. Now let's go over your key mixes, and that is the throws to use. The throws to use for your key damage and mix are obviously Giant Swing, and to do the input, it's not that hard. It does look terrifying at first, but let's break it down, let's make it easier. All you have to do to start off is to tap forward, right? And then immediately afterwards, do half circle from back to forward. Imagine sliding your thumb under. You're creating a rainbow that goes the wrong way, right? Going from back to forward after tapping forward and pressing punt. This throw can be teched by 1, but Giant Swing is good for damage and if the wall is behind them, more damage is guaranteed. Keep in mind, unless the wall is behind you, the opponent will be sent at full screen, so you're back to neutral. But don't worry about it, you're not playing a crappy 2D grappler, you're playing a 3D grappler that has good neutral. The next throw to mix up is the Muscle Buster. This throw is one of the key ones to go for damage and for your Oki, and to use this one, you do quarter circle back 1+2. Again, as mentioned earlier with your offensive strikes, you want to either mix up Giant Swing or Muscle Buster, these two key throws after your offense. And this throw, not only does it have all these great properties, you can get a guaranteed back turn free if you get the timing just right for that extra bit of damage. You learn to close out a round and you land a Muscle Buster and your opponent's on 1%, guaranteed back free, time it right, you can get the kill. But the thing is, if you're clean enough at your instant while runnings, that is tapping forward 3 times, you can choose to go for instant Shining Wizard compared to Giant Swing, as this does more damage than the Muscle Buster and can lead to some guaranteed Oki, unlike the Muscle Buster. So you might want to use this instead of the Muscle Buster, as this is also a great throw to use, as it's a great mental stack option, and of course looks exactly like Giant Swing, which is the key thing that we're trying to reiterate here. Use throws that look like Giant Swing, and use Giant Swing when the opponent is tekking your 1+2. However, there is one thing that we should keep in mind. Is your opponent reacted to the throw in the first place? This comes up a lot in Tekken. You may believe your opponent is in the same wavelength as you, but you won't know until you test them. This is the throw that I use to test the opponent, and that is the To Twister. To do the input is the exact same as the Giant Swing. You tap forward, do the underside rainbow into 2 or half circle into 2, and you'll do the To Twister, as it gives a guaranteed forward 3 after the landing. It does some solid damage. This is great to use to check your opponent, because now you're testing their reactions, right? You're no longer in the realms of 50-50 where the opponent has to guess correctly. You're asking them to their face, do you even know what I'm doing here? And that is the whole purpose of To Twister, to check the opponent. Use To Twister first to understand if your opponent knows what you're doing. If they know what you're doing, start using Giant Swing and Muscle Buster, but use this first. You want to see if your opponent is even playing the same game as you. There's no point trying to mix them up if they have no clue what you're doing. Use To Twister first, and if you're smart enough, you can go for the Tombstone if you're feeling cool enough. But I find that one tricky. Some people find it easier, I don't know. Up to you. It's up to you if you want to use Tombstone or the To Twister. I recommend the To Twister. Those are the key throws that you should be using as King, and any other throw that you're using with King is just for style points. Every other throw you're using with King is literally just for style points. The Ric Flair, that's for style points. The knee drop, that's for style points. The rock bottom, that's for style points. You're doing that solely for style points, okay? Besides crouch throws, which we will also get into much later on. But yeah, besides all the stylish stuff you were doing with the previous throws and Giant Swing and Muscle Buster, these are your next important throws, and that is your chain throws. Your chain throws force the opponent to take 50-50s on each chain of the throw, and they'll do more damage than any other throw in the game. However, the problem with this is that the opponent has multiple opportunities to get out, and the throw startups for all of the chain throws are actually kind of slow. However, you can condition your opponent to taking them if you use the right tools that were mentioned earlier. However, if you've conditioned them, as we've mentioned earlier, the tools that you can use, I recommend learning the crouch dash routes, and that is both with 1+4 and 2+3. Crouch dash 1+4 is a chain throw that will lead to the rolling death cradle if you complete this sequence on screen. Be sure to complete the sequence as you continue on to the next part of the throw. The throws go step by step, and you can notice this with the camera change, and I recommend with the camera change pressing the inputs that are on your screen at that moment. But with CD 1+4, you'll go into the rolling death cradle, which is the most damaging chain throw that King has with the least amount of steps. Just make sure the sequence isn't messed up. But yeah, one thing that you can do is you can actually keep mashing the inputs until you eventually get it. Not mashing it, but be sure you're precise as you're mashing it, going through all the inputs. But don't go too crazy with it, as it can mess up the sequence. But this is the main one to go to for your damage if your opponent doesn't know anything about chain throws. Anything at all. Next chain throw I recommend is the one that leads to the King's Bridge with these notations on screen. As mentioned before with the rolling death cradle, you want to do it with the camera angle changes, And this one does less damage, but there's only one point the opponent can break to negate the King's Bridge, and that is after the leg snap. After the leg snap, the Indian lock is confirmed, and after the Indian lock, you can go into the King's Bridge for massive amounts of damage and amazing Oki. So be sure to mix up these two chain throws to scare the opponent. And if you think the opponent is easily breaking out with your key and whispered chain throws, you can do the strategy of mashing all the buttons together to go into another route. This is great for King, as you can just get some guaranteed damage, get some Oki, and move on with your life. Overall, not extremely necessary chain throws, but I do think they are worth learning. Next one we're going to be getting into is how to utilize Jaguar Step. Jaguar Step is one of the neutral tools of the game. It is up there with back tempo with how strong it is in my mind. It lets you back up, make some space between you and the opponent. If the opponent whiffs within that space, you can whiff punish them for amazing damage. I recommend using the Jaguar Step 2 as that confirms your crouch throws. Your free crouch throws are the Pedigree, the Triple H special, the Clothesline, which is a floor break, and the V-Driver, which I don't believe is a floor break, but it also leads to amazing Oki. So choose the one that you want for specifically a situation. You need a floor break, the Clothesline's got you. You need Oki, V-Driver's got you, and do you need heat? The Pedigree, the game, has got you. That's one of the amazing uses about Jaguar Step, but let's keep in mind the other one, which is going into your chain throws, which you can learn. I don't think they are worth learning, but if you want to go for them, go crazy, right? Notations on screen, and they're also in your training move list, be sure to look at them. But the other thing you can go for is the 4, which is a plus on block high, and if you keep charging it, it's actually a guard crush. The other thing you can go for is down forward 4, which is a mid that's great for tracking. If the opponent ducks the high, it'll clip them, but you can go for the 2 if you want the mid. The kick is just cool. And then you've got a really good evasion tool with Jaguar Step 3, which is a very good mid kick that puts space between you and the opponent and jumps over lows. So do you need a round win situation? Do Jaguar Step into 3. So these tools all have a purpose. 4 is a plus on block pressure tool. The 2 is a great whiff punishing chop that will guarantee your crouch throw game, which is King's best damage and best setups. I would recommend absolutely using this tool because of it. Your chain throws, to mix up the opponent, go for your chain throws, do your damage, but the thing is, keep in mind it is a high. You've got 2 high options, the opponent's more likely to duck, so the chop is the go-to, an amazing tool overall. So Jaguar Step, one of the key tools, keep it in mind. But yeah, Jaguar Step, try to use it on defense for backing up, creating space between you and the opponent, and whiff punishing them for massive, massive damage, and getting into heat with that Pedigree. You know what they say, it's time to play the game! Next stance we're going to be getting into is Jaguar Sprint. Jaguar Sprint is a very odd tool. You can use it after up forward 3+4, which is an armor tool, and it will put you into Jaguar Sprint immediately. 2 is a high that's plus on block. You can use this to set up your throw game, and against the wall, it's extremely plus. You can use this to set up a guaranteed throw game, but keep in mind though that the high is duckable, and the opponent will want to duck because of one of the key options after it. The other thing about the Jaguar Sprint, you have the 1, which is a great mid that will do a wall splat, and if the wall isn't there, it will give you your guaranteed crouch throw or elbow drop into alley kick. The 4 is a fast load. You can use this to check the opponent to just duck and then immediately stand up. You can catch them with a slight delay, or you can go for it as an immediate mix to catch the opponent off guard. 3 is a nice tracking mid if the opponent's like decided to sidestep, but it's reactable. Keep that in mind if you want to go for the mid mix. I recommend going between the 1 and 4, but there's a great mental stack option if you love Randy Orton, and that is the RKO. The RKO, overall not an amazing tool, but it is a heat engager. Now, why am I not saying this is amazing? It's an unbreakable throw that has a large chunk of health and is a heat engager. And that's because it's reactable. I know. The throw is reactable, which is a big shame, but the great thing about it is that it's reactive. So for all the opponents that are fuzzy ducking, you can delay the timing and go for that nasty RKO. The Viper will strike with this tool. Be sure to try to use it as an occasional mental stack option, but overall I recommend using the 1 and the 4, as 1 is a great wall tool and 4 is a great low mix for ending rounds. That's all you really need to know about Jaguar Sprint, but overall 1 and 4 key tools, and throw is a solid mental stack option. 3 if the opponent wants to sidestep, and 2, honestly, not worth using most of the time, but maybe delay 2 will be a good shout. Now that I've covered all the key stances, all of your key offensive tools, it's time to get into one of your main offensive tools that I haven't gone over too much, and that is how to utilize heat with King. King has some of the best utility with heat, and to quote the developers, King is a beast in heat. When popping heat either through an engager or burst, it's important to make the most out of it. In heat, Jaguar Sprint, as mentioned before, all of a sudden, the 1 becomes a launcher and the run-up is armored, so the opponent is now terrified to deal with your guaranteed neutral option. They have to threaten a low, but the 3 will play around the low. The 1 is quick, so it might play around the low just due to how quick it is. And the 1 is a launcher that leads to about 40% on hit. So all of a sudden, the opponent has threats that they're scared to deal with when it comes to heat. So that is how much heat changes the game for King's normal moves. But to get into it as well, I recommend using heat after some of these big moves for a heat dash, as it's a guaranteed weight stab mix. As mentioned before with 4-2-1 and 4-2-3, great tools overall to just get guaranteed mix. But one thing we should mention is that we want to get into heat using heat burst, and we'll be mentioning that in the combos later. And the final thing to mention about King's heat is the heat smash, as it is by far the best thing that King has access to. Heat smash is the most damaging heat smash in the game, making it one of the best heat smashes in the game. It's a 17 frame mid, comes out fairly quick, as you can tell from 17 frames, and it doesn't have any tracking, but you can realign yourself with a forward dash to catch people trying to sidestep it. But yeah, let's get into the key thing about it. Not only does it do mass amounts of damage on hit, we're talking 40% if you're in rage, which is usually the time you end up using it. On block, it has amazing properties as it leaves you plus 12, guaranteeing the Jaguar Sprint mix that comes immediately afterwards. You can use this to run the opponent to the wall and then set up your mix, or you can go immediately into the mix if you need a round winning situation. However, be careful of rage, as this is a key way to deny your mix after the Jaguar Sprint. But the great thing about Jaguar Sprint, you can cancel it as quickly as possible by holding back. And it makes it an amazing mental stack option, because all of a sudden Jaguar Sprint, and I know this is within heat, Jaguar Sprint, you can run into it, back up, and then do giant swing if you're feeling cheeky enough. Keep in mind, Heat Smash, one of the best ones in the game, do mass amounts of chip damage, run your opponent to the corner, threaten a mid-low, and the other thing, go for the mental stack option. The Viper is watching, and he strikes. Next step is your combos, and we're going to be having the combo notations as is on screen. I'll describe them if you really want them to. If you want to hear that luxurious voice, it's up to you. But yeah, off of your key launchers like hop kick, you can do this B&B off of absolutely everything, right? After hop kick, do forward 3, then forward 4-3, back 1-2, into running 2-4. That's your Shining Wizard, and it's a very simple combo that you can do every time. However, if you want a higher damaging B&B, and this only really works off of crouching 1+2, or hop kick, you could do up forward 4, into 4, back 2-4, back 3, into run up 2, into the instant Shining Wizard. This is tricky to do for newcomers, I'm willing to admit that almost immediately. But this will do mass amounts of damage, and you don't have to commit to some of the harder routes that exist for King. I recommend learning this if you want to push your knowledge. Let's get into one of your other key launchers that can combo in other ways. The next one is your full crouch gut buster, the down forward 2. This is your body blow launcher that we mentioned earlier, and this is the combo that you're going to want to do off of it if you want to maximize your damage. And that is full crouch down forward 2, 4-4-1, down forward 4-3, 1-2, into up forward 3+2, hold back, and then run up to Shining Wizard. This does a lot of damage, as you can see on screen. So if you want a higher damaging route that will lead into heat, on any of your combos, I recommend learning this route. Up forward 4, forward 3, down forward 4-3, back 1-2, run up, and when you stop, press 2, press Heat Burst. This will knock the opponent down for an instant Shining Wizard, and because of this route will do a lot of damage, and guess what you're in? You're in heat. No jokes intended, but you're in heat, and this is a great thing because all of a sudden you have scary chip damage, you have amazing tools like your Jaguar Sprint 1, and your opponent is more afraid of what you could set up. Of any of your launchers, these are the best tools to go for to maximize damage and to obtain heat. If you are in heat and you want to dish out some additional damage, you can do the same combo, but the final hit of it, instead of being Shining Wizard, can be the power bomb heat smash finisher. So try using that if you want to. Final step of this tutorial, and that is your defense. Now, I mentioned defense last because a lot of people find this difficult to pick up. And this is true. Even I find it difficult to pick up. There's some points where I'm still labbing the game, and I recommend taking up this part of the guide after you've labbed the game out just a little bit. Just a little bit. After understanding some of the finer details of the game, this is a great part of the guide to really tune into. And that is to, of course, you want to be active on defense with King. In previous Tekkens, if you're someone that's played previous Tekkens, you don't want to be active on defense. You want to play movement, you want to block punish, you want to look out for opportunities to duck and punish. But Tekken 8, it's a lot more oppressive. And to get out of oppressive offense, you need threaten things like armor, you need threaten things like heat, and you need threaten things like your rage arts. You need to use these tools on defense, and a lot of players are missing out on this simply because they're used to older Tekken. I'm still used to older Tekken. I will hold like 18 block strings in a game where you shouldn't. That's detrimental for you. But let's get into some of your defensive tools. And one defensive tool, I will say, is the Jaguar Step that we mentioned earlier. We can use the space out tools, and we can hop over lows and catch them with the chop. Pedigree, time to play the game. One of the key defensive tools I recommend using in neutral if the opponent has some type of advantage, like heat, for example. Let's get into some of the insane things about King's defense, and that is his armor tools. King's armor tools are really good for defense. Back 3 is a great armor move that comes out quick. I'm talking 16 frames quick. And as the infamous Sweet Chin music, if you like Shawn Michaels, of course we're WWE fans, we play King, and if you're not, watch WWE, you'll like it. But yeah, to get into it, it's a high with pushback, meaning the opponent can't punish it, although it's -10. But it being a high does mean it's duckable, so do be careful, do not utilize this every time on defense. However, the great thing about this tool is that after the back 3, you can do 1+2, you can match it, you don't even gotta time it. And the Oki will lead to some amazing stuff, as the leg drop does solid damage and leaves you in a state where you can threaten a 50-50. You can go for a 4-2+3 or down back 3 is your mix options to catch the opponent getting up. 4-2-3 will catch the opponent getting up, and down back 3 will catch the opponent for lying down. Overall, solid damage and a great heat engager option for defense if you want to flip it around and get some solid damage. Another great defensive tool for armor is your up forward 3+4. This is a big boot, nasty kick, and it's -12 on block, which is actually really good for a mid armor move with the reward that this move had. The rewards it has is a solid amount of damage, and you get into transition into Jaguar Sprint, meaning you get a guaranteed 50-50 with 1 or 4, or a mental stack option with the RKO. But yeah, the great thing about this armor move compared to back 3, why you'd want to use this one instead, is that it's actually a mid. And that makes it really good because the opponent can no longer duck it, they can no longer play around it with like low evasion moves, you clip them. So this is smart if you want to call out people trying to duck your highs or trying to do evasion around your tools on offense, and to get some immediate offense immediately afterwards, popping the armor. This is a great tool worth risking on defense if you want to get immediate offense. One of the most unique armor tools in the game is King's down back 1+2. This is a unique armor move where it doesn't actually do an attack. However, he will tank any hit that comes into his direction, except lows. And the great thing about this armor move is that unlike every other armor move, it comes out in 7 frames. In +3 scenarios, you can threaten this as a solid defensive tool. But yeah, you can try to utilize this tool to get out of pressure. But the other thing is, because it's just a tank, you're not forced into doing a move. You can tank with down back 1+2 and then go into giant swing. And if you've seen one of my infamous shorts I've made, it's on TikTok, YouTube, all that stuff. This extends your range when you pop this move. So you can extend your range and then punish with back 1-2 if the opponent's far away, or if they're up close, go for giant swing. But overall, a very fun defensive tool to use with King, down back 1+2, very intriguing and very high level. The more you experiment with this move, the more you understand how to use it, and you'll be able to capitalize more than any other King using this tool. So, that's the guide. We've gone over everything that's key and important. For example, all the offensive tools you need to use, all your mixed tools, your key combos, your defensive tools, Jaguar Step, Jaguar Sprint, all of your key throws, all of your key chain throws. I believe we've covered the whole lot with King. And I'm very happy I can make this guide to help you get to the point where at least I'm at, right? I'm not even a giga high level player. I made Bushin recently, which means I'm within the top 1% of players, which I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that. And we're going to continue to push the Tekken God, maybe do some competitiveness on the side. Overall, this is a solid guide to come back to every time. You do not have to watch all in one setting. Will you learn things for watching this guide? Absolutely. But will you also take some information away? Will you also become a better king main? It is all up to you. You need to take this information I presented you, take it away, break it down, understand it, and try to utilize it as much as possible, because these are simple terms I'm going over. These are really good tools that I'm going over, and I would decided to give you some of the best and some of the underrated things in my mind. And again, if you're confused with any of the terminology I've used, there's this website that I'm going to be linking in the video, FGC Glossary. It lets you know what I'm saying when I'm talking about anything. For example, when I said mental stack, that'll be in there. This refers to mostly things such as if the opponent has too many options in mind, you threaten an option that's not in their mind, and then they get hit by it. Yeah, keep that in mind. This guide, very important, but I hope you like and subscribe, as this guide took a lot of time to make. I'm talking like about a couple of weeks. I wanted the visuals to be as best as I could, and I wanted the audio and the script writing to really make sense and to really get the point across that King is solid in this game, and it's not going to take a whole lot of learning. But I hope this helps. I genuinely hope this helps. I hope it'll help you get to my level. Again, I'm not even up there, right? Keep that in mind. I'm not even up there. I'm not even low margin level, right? But this should give you a good baseline with your King to spread your wings and fly off. As I've told you how to be creative, I've gave you all the ingredients. You just have to make your own recipe and make your own King you. But overall, I hope this helps. I'm peacing out. Patriarch Panda signing out with the King Guide. Oh yeah, brother.